Hello, this is Daniel Biltz with the newsreel. We start as usual with a news bulletin followed by a report on the Romanian government's decentralization strategy. Later in newsreel, stay tuned for a report on the preparations Romanians are making for Easter. And now, stay tuned for the news with Mihaela Ignatescu.
The headlines. Romania has available 6.8 billion euros, of which 5.1 from EU funds, for transport investments, says the European Commissioner for Regional Policy, Corina Crețu. 5 years of war in Syria have cost Romanian exports at least 500 million euros. And Christians around the world, including in mostly Orthodox Romania, commemorate on Good Friday the crucifixion of Christ. Romania currently has available for investment in the transport sector over 6.8 billion euros, of which 5.1 billion from EU funds, says the European Commissioner for Regional Policy, Corina Crețu. According to a news release issued by the representation of Romania to the EU, Crețu discussed in Brussels on Wednesday with the Romanian Transport Minister Răzvan Cuc and emphasized the need to spend up the funds provided by the EU. Corina Crețu also mentioned the benefits entailed by the programs in the sector, which allowed for the transport network in Romania to be extended and improved. In turn, Minister Răzvan Cuc presented the commitment of Romanian authorities to finalizing the current investments and start new projects. Romanian exports to Syria were 80% lower in 2016 than in 2011, when a civil war broke out in that country. In 5 years, Romania has lost at least 500 million euros in exports, the daily Ziarul Financiar reports. Syria mostly imported livestock from Romania, sheep and goats, as well as dairy, eggs and fish. The Daily also mentions that Romania has stayed uninvolved in the conflict in Syria, and in 2012 the then-President Traian Băsescu would not close the Romanian diplomatic mission in Damascus, arguing that the country hosted a large Romanian community. According to the Romanian Foreign Ministry, 10,000 to 12,000 Romanians live in Syria, mostly women married to Syrian citizens. The Embassy of Romania also provides consular assistance to citizens from other countries like Canada, France and Australia. Romania's President Klaus Iohannis on Thursday approved the request made by the National Anti-Corruption Directorate to start the prosecution of Gabriel Sandu, a former Minister of Communications and IT between 2008 and 2010. He has been investigated for abuse of office in a new case of corruption known as Microsoft 2. On Tuesday, anti-corruption prosecutors started the prosecution of another 5 people, among whom the former tennis player Dinu Pescariu and the businessman Claudiu Florică, also accused of abuse of office. Prosecutors say that the two allegedly paid Gabriel Sandu, the communication minister back then, more than 2 million euros through another businessman to help them win a public tender. In this case, the estimated damage stands at some 51 million euros. Gabriel Sandu already got a prison sentence in October 2016 in the case known as Microsoft 1, one of the biggest cases of corruption in Romania. In that case, bribes stood at 60 million euros and the damage to the Romanian state was of 27 million. The Romanian Financial Oversight Authority on Thursday sanctioned NN, the largest private pension fund in the country, with a fine of 750,000 lei, accounting for 1% of the company's registered capital, for transmitting information aimed to destabilize the pension fund system. Ion Giurescu, the vice president of the authority, has announced. The decision was made as a result of the fact that on Wednesday, NN sent an email to its clients warning them about an alleged nationalization of private pension funds. Also, the Financial Oversight Authority decided on Thursday to sanction Mrs. Raluca Țintoiu, general manager of NN Pensions, with a fine of 100,000 lei. In the coming days, Romania's parliament will initiate the procedures to dismiss the entire management of the financial oversight authorities. The announcement has been made by the president of the governing Social Democratic Party, Liviu Dragnea, following the scandal about the alleged nationalization of private pension funds. According to Dragnea, the head of the authority, Mișu Negruțoiu, was the one who started the rumors. Both the Social Democratic leader and the finance minister, Viorel Ștefan, have denied that such a scenario is being considered. Christians all over the world, including in Romania, which is a predominantly Orthodox country, will recollect on Good Friday Christ's crucifixion. Some believers drink only water on this day, and many attend the religious masses symbolizing the carrying of Jesus to his tomb. On Thursday, Christians commemorated Holy Thursday, when the Saviour washed the feet of his disciples, and also the Last Supper. On Saturday night, Christians will celebrate Easter, the resurrection of Christ. This year, the Orthodox and Catholic Christians celebrate Easter on the same day. And that was the news.
Radio Newsreel continues on Radio Romania International. The Romanian government has adopted a general strategy for decentralization, which is aimed at bringing all public services closer to citizens. Here is Lăcrămioara Simion with details in a commentary by Ștefan Stoica.
In the coming 3 months, all ministries in Romania will undertake impact studies related to the decentralization strategy, and in 7 months' time, at the most, they will pass sectorial laws that will underlie the process of decentralization. These statements were made by the Deputy Prime Minister Sevil Șaideh at the end of the meeting, in which the government coalition made up of the Social Democratic Party and the Alliance of Liberals and Democrats adopted the decentralization strategy. The domains included in the decentralization process are agriculture, education, healthcare, culture, the environment, youth, sports and tourism. The Deputy Prime Minister Sevil Șaideh has explained.
Pe agricultură ne referim la descentralizarea implementării.
As regards agriculture, we will decentralize the implementation of policies regarding the rural areas' sustainable development and management. In the cultural domain, decentralization will refer to the approval of leasing commissioning or to the approval of interventions on Class B historical monuments. In the tourism field, decentralization will mean opportunities for transfer in relation to the issuance of tourism certificates, the classification of accommodation units, the certification of beaches for tourists, and the approval of technical documentation for constructions in the tourism field. The advantage of decentralization is well known in the sense that it brings all public services closer to citizens. But are the local authorities ready at present to take over new competences? Sevil Șaideh is back at the microphone.
În acest moment nu vorbim de competențele pe care le au.
At present, we are not talking about the competencies of local authorities. We are focusing on preparing the decentralization process. Decentralization must be done with the necessary human resources and the funds needed for exerting the respective competencies. At present, we are only talking about impact analyses and sectorial laws. I believe the competencies of local authorities will only be discussed starting next year. Prime Minister Sorin Grindeanu is convinced that decentralization will have a really good impact at local level. He called on the ministers involved in the process to begin talks on the topic of decentralization, first at the level of ministries and then with the subordinated institutions, in order to avoid such situations when government agencies could be an obstacle in this process. It is not the first time when decentralization comes into discussion. In January 2014, the Constitutional Court decided that the decentralization law, for which the Ponta government had assumed responsibility in Parliament, was unconstitutional. The court judges then identified inconsistencies in terms of transferred competencies and the legal status of assets.
With only a few days to go before Easter, Romanians are making the final preparations in keeping with 100-year-old traditions and customs. Cristina Motescu has this commentary written by Leila Camil.
Eastern Christianity's biggest and oldest religious holiday, Easter, which marks Christ's resurrection from the dead, is this year celebrated on the same day, April the 15th, by both Orthodox and Roman Catholic Christians. A few days after Christ's triumphal entry into Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, he was tried by the Romans, crucified and laid in his grave, but he rose from the dead 3 days later.
This succession of events took place over the course of a week, known as Passion Week. Special evening services are held in churches in this period, the most important being that on Maundy Thursday and Good Friday. These services recount the terrible moments that took place more than 2,000 years ago. The majority Orthodox Romanians attend the services held at churches and monasteries across the country and abroad. In his Easter pastoral prayer, the Patriarch of the Romanian Orthodox Church, Daniel, told believers that Jesus did not respond to violence with violence and to malice with malice, but prayed for his tormentors to be forgiven. The Patriarch said man's soul opens to heaven only when it fills with humble repentance, sincere forgiveness, peace and merciful love. The final preparations for Easter Sunday are made on Holy Week. On Maundy Thursday, people start making preparations for the Easter meal. They paint the eggs red and bake a type of Easter bread known as Pascha and pound cake. A kind of terrine made of lamb's organs, called drob in Romanian, lamb steak and wine are Easter dinner staples in this country. Special festivals and fairs are also held around Easter. Bucharest's Constitution Square, for example, hosts an Easter fair until April the 17th. The fair's 110 stands sell traditional Romanian products, including decorative objects made of wood, glass and ceramic, as well as musical instruments, traditional costumes and food products. A special area at the fair is dedicated to children, with mini train rides, merry-go-rounds, workshops where visual artists and actors help children express their creativity. Some people spend Easter in the mountains, where many hotels and guest houses are already fully booked. Others go to the seaside or even abroad for a short holiday. Many Romanians working abroad return to their native country to be with their loved ones. Seriously ill but in stable condition, King Mihai I of Romania will spend Easter at his private residence in Switzerland. Princess Margaret, however, the custodian of the crown, and her husband, Prince Radu, will attend Easter Mass at the Metropolitan Cathedral in Cluj-Napoca, Transylvania.
You have been listening to Radio Newsreel on Radio Romania International in Bucharest.
Listening to Radio Romania International.
Focus on Romania. This is Radio Romania International, broadcasting from Bucharest. Traveler's Guide.